Welcome to part 2 of the amazing cars of the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild. In mid-century America, this was a huge event, spawning the careers of countless talented individuals whose life works shape the world we live in today. And yet, despite its historical significance, it is all but forgotten. Just a quick recap of part 1. From 1930 to 1968, with a short break for World War II, teenagers from across the U.S. competed in droves in this contest. Annually, thousands of futuristic, one-of-a-kind cars were built, designed and constructed by talented youths, some of them as young as 11 years old. The event provided adventurous teenagers the opportunity to take their first steps into careers that would last a lifetime. And it also provided the world's largest corporation, General Motors, a unique means to rapidly populate its ranks with exceptional talent, so it could better compete on style, engineering, and innovations in the battle for market share with Ford and Chrysler. At the time, Fisher Body was one of the only sources of promising new talent for a career path that, up to this point in history, had no precedent. There were almost no schools with curriculums to train for it. The Fisher Body Design Contest was a creative fountainhead for new shapes and automotive ideas. Young designers were challenged to merge technical innovations that came from industry with new design approaches, even venturing into asymmetrical cars, experimental drivetrains, as well as expanded use of glass and construction materials like aluminum and fiberglass and resin. Cars created for the contest often quintessentialized mid-century sensibilities such as simplicity, aerodynamics, longer, lower, wider stances, and streamlined forms. The expression of speed and power were implicit in the form and the shape that emerged from the contest. A significant number of entrants pursued careers in automobile design, engineering, and education, and they continued to exert their influence throughout their careers. For many, the seminal event of their careers began with the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild contest. The year is 1956, and we are in the vast auditorium of the Fisher Body General Offices in Warren, Michigan. Surrounding me are all of the entries for the year 1956, and it's roughly about 2,000 cars. By 1959, the number of entries will have ballooned to over 4,000. All the cars in this room have already been scored to extremely high standards by Fisher Body judges who have evaluated the cars for design, craftsmanship, paint finish, ergonomics, originality, and practicability. All the entries must be scaled to 1/12 the size of a full-size car, and that's usually around 14 to 17 inches in length. Some of the entries have not been accepted because they did not meet the dimensional tolerances required by the demanding standards of the judges. You stand to get additional points if you design an interior with your car. If your car made it into this room, you had effectively earned your membership to an elite group of people already, and you could now call yourself a guildsman. Beyond that, though, your car still needed to be so outstanding that it would be selected as the winner in the contest. And competition is stiff. Each one of these cars represents 1,000 hours of work. They have arrived here from small towns and big cities scattered all across America, and they have arrived in crates that were hand-built by their contestants. Sometimes due to rough shipping, the cars were damaged and could not be included in the contest. The entrants are motivated by the promise of scholarship money so they can go to college, or by the opportunity to start a career in the automobile business. Despite the high bars set by Fisher Body, this level of participation was sustained by the Guild for almost 40 years. GM and Fisher Body drove contestant interest with awards, informative guides, and even a regular publication devoting a whole newspaper to information about the contest. But besides money and scholarships, there was another attraction to the contest: the opportunity to be part of events that would shape the future. The fascination with cars was driven further by all forms of public media, which published articles, magazines, and optimistic forecasts of new forms of transportation and marvels of technology. Periodicals tied images of futuristic cars to advancements in science and engineering. By the late 1950s, stylistically, cars were linked with areas of spectacular achievement, such as aviation and rocketry, a connection that Harley Earl at GM helped to reinforce. Fairs and trade shows showed jaw-dropping prototypes, making real the vision of a technologically advanced world that would be better for all of us. Sometimes just the physical appearance of something new seemed to prove that science had moved the world forward yet again. With that as a quick overview, giving us a context to view what we're seeing now, it's easy to understand why enthusiasm was so high to be a contestant in the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild design contest. Understanding the conviction and the determination of the contestants is critical to appreciating all the ideas that were produced at that time. Try to keep that in mind as you watch the rest of this report. Now, in case you're wondering what that darkened silhouette behind me is, let's just call that today's mystery car. It has a very special history and a story behind it, because although it was designed and built to be entered into the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild design contest in 1961, it was held back by its creator because, in his estimation, he had succeeded in designing yet another car that he felt had an even better chance of winning in the competition. So it's kind of a mystery car because it was designed by a Fisher Body Craftsman Guild winner, and yet it was never entered into the contest. So it's an exceptionally rare and unusual car. And today it's going to continue standing out by enabling us to witness the entire process of building one of these cars. We will be able to see all the steps involved in creating a car like this. Some of them will be eye-popping, and some will be challenging, and some very difficult. But it will be great to see how someone gets from a lump of clay to something like this. Our guide will be this car's creator and the national winner of the 1961 Fisher Body Craftsman Guild sports car category, Tony Simoni, and Tony will explain how he designed his car, beginning with the numerous exciting ideas that started in his head to scribbles on paper and finally to something that took the form that we see here. And after that, insider tour, where this car is going to be crafted before our eyes, we're going to get another look at it, but we will see it in the full light of day. I just don't want to reveal it yet because it's going to be more interesting to see what it really looks like after we've seen how it was put together. The Fisher Body Craftsman Guild supplied contestants with a manual that gave a thorough step-by-step instruction on how to go about building an award-winning car. The first step was drawing your car. Originality earned high points in the contest, so this first step was critical to any chance of success. Let's listen in as Tony Simoni explains how he created his award-winning designs.
So what we would do is just make your mind go crazy and see what kind of designs. There's just so many lines you can put on a car. Like this one, this from front to back is usually the one that works. It's called a fastback look, which takes the front of the windshield instead of just stopping here like most sports cars are, and it goes all the way back to the rear fender area. That's called the fastback look. That was very popular back in the 70s, for sure. It still is. It had to be in a certain space here, so you had to use it. This is basically your basic convertible look. Okay. and make room for the hardtop at some point, like that. But you pretty much, you had to design and build the interior of the convertible. A lot of guys didn't want to do that. And that's a simple design right here. It's a line that goes front to back. And when you do that, it makes the car look like it's going forward. Without that line, here's one for you. Goes out to a high back end. Okay, swooping down. Rear window coming in. With the wheel well straight across. And again, one line showing the speed. And this would be like not a station wagon. Would it be like a rear compartment area with a special design window? Put that in. How about a dashboard? So how do you come up with the final design that you want when you're a young kid? Just keep making as many of these as you can. And then finally, you decide to put it on paper and make some sense out of it. And that's so you can get going on the clay model. So this is what it would look like. And what you've done is you've taken this one line, you made this line come up, go over the top, come in, and you got this and this. But until you make the clay model, you're not really sure you like what you're seeing, because you can't see it like that, three-dimensional. And then you say, okay, I like this, and that's what it might look like, and that might look at the front might look like, that's what the top might look like. So let's put this all on clay. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to just, what you do is you kind of get it right into the wood like this, as best you can. It's like an adhesive really at this point. I kind of know what the design's going to look like. So I'm just kind of doing some rough work right now, but I'm kind of, as you can see, I'm kind of beginning to get a little bit of a shape to it. Not much, but it'll take a little bit of time. A lot of time, actually. And just patience. But I have my design in front of me. It took almost a year of dedicated work with the hope of taking it from a clay model to a wooden model and a full design so that you could possibly have the judges feel that it had the chance of winning.
After the basic form of the car is roughed in clay, Tony proceeds to make a template so that he can recreate it in wood.
I always use the numbers on the board here, as you can see. You can almost do this too as well. I kind of give you some idea. But number 13, station number 13, would be right here, off of that wall, off of that. So I would cut, you would cut and make templates for all these, like that. Okay? And you would continue to do this like that. Okay? And you kind of scribe it as best you can. So you would make one of these for each one of those stations. Once you have them all done on one side of this clay model, you reverse it to the other side. One side is done, the other side is started. And this process continues until you like what you see. And you can see it come into shape right here.
With the car's proportions now roughed in clay, Tony uses paper templates, saws, and chisels to transfer the existing proportions of the clay model onto a wood block, which he is going to craft to become the actual final car.
And this is just a rough, to get an idea of what you got to take off first before you get into other stuff. Do this. I know I'm going to be taking some of this off. I'm going to be taking some of this off. And in the back, using my center point here, I know I'm going to have a curvature. So I'm going to be taking some of that off. So I know I have at least that. In those days, there wasn't any money to be had for people to go to college. My father said to us one evening, I can put a roof over your head, I can put food on the table, but there's no way I can help pay your way to college. You'll have to figure it out yourself. This was a motivating factor in us joining the Fisher Body Craftsman's Guild. And luckily, it was available to us at that time. The templates were a big help transferring from the clay model over to the wooden model. We didn't have computers back then or robots to do it. It all had to be done by hand work. You had to continuously sand and shave off the wood and make both sides symmetrical. Very difficult. Now we have number 13 from the clay model over onto the wood model. So now we're getting dimensions on this car now. One side is done, the other side is started. And this process continues until you like what you see. And you can see it come into shape right here. And this goes on for months. Months and months of just refining the design, maybe using a little wood filler because you made mistakes. Okay? And that's basically that stage of the process is just continuously shaping it and whatever and placing that on top and see what it's going to look like. Now it's getting a life. It's getting a different life now.
Windshields had their own design instructions in the Fisher Body Guide, and Tony's design features a gigantic dome, which he is going to have to craft separately.
We have to cut it, and we just cut it. Took one piece off, we cut the other piece, and what's left to cut is right here. We got to take this off, and cut this off. I made the window out of wood. Some people might have made it out of plexiglass, but I'm not sure I had the skill to pull it off. And then I would have to make an entire interior, which was really difficult.
Model cars that were entered in the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild were given high scores for originality and design. But also, paint, finish, and attention to detail were scored just as highly. And the process of preparing a car for painting was painstaking and meticulous, as Tony will demonstrate.
We're going to be putting sealer, approximately 6 to 8 coats of sealer. After each coat, we sand with a very mild sandpaper, what they call a 400 grit or less. And after we get this all done, it will be a perfect surface for any kind of priming and paint. After putting a sealant on the wood to prevent any possible leak of sap coming out, we put 4 or 5 primer coats on the car. Each one had to be sanded and had a smooth finish. You can see you have to take it down a little bit. You can see some blemishes, and you got to get those blemishes out. You would sandpaper it down using water. This would make it a perfect finish before you compound and apply wax. After that is completed to your satisfaction, you put on your pieces, the hubcaps, the back bumpers, the front, the top, and it is completed and ready for competition.
Problem solving, resourcefulness, imagination were all aptitudes that helped in executing these designs. This aspect of the contest really is underscored in the section of the manual about metal trim. The manual suggests that grills can be fashioned from wire or aluminum screening material. Hacksaws can be used to shape metal bumpers and trim pieces. It suggests that wheels can be fabricated from assorted metal scraps and flat metal discs. Round metal pieces can be transformed into hubcaps by selectively drilling holes to make a pattern. And this is my favorite suggestion, Taillights can be crafted by repurposing the colorful handles of red plastic toothbrushes to make them fit the design. The cachet and the esteem of participating in the contest, all the cool modern designs, the publicity around the event, belied the technical challenges thrown into the path of young talent as they labored to complete their visions of the car of the future. Let's continue and see how Tony solves his problems and brings his design to completion.
Besides making all the metal pieces for the car, we use plastic, we use aluminum or brass, which is this is brass, and all of these are plated before putting them on the car. I'm bending it, right? Ready? All these pieces on the car were brought to a local plating company which plated everything chrome. The hubcap is always part of the design. There had to be 36 holes drilled around the side with a gear placed inside. I used a solid piece of aluminum with a finished gear placed in the middle. Filed to make sure that it would fit perfectly. General Motors Fisher Body gave us the rubber wheels. We have to put our white wall on it because that was what was at the time fashionable. And then we screwed it in. And then I'll just put it in and we'd glue it in. And my last thing would be to put the red plastic in there. I'm putting a piece of solid metal between the two. And I'm retracing the piece of metal right now. Okay. And I'm just going to cut that out later. I want to make sure I have a piece of metal, a piece of trim between the body and the top. So I'm putting a piece of solid metal. Between the two.
Well, finally, we get to enjoy the fruits of Tony's labor. Now that we can look at these cars with a new eye, the detail work. This car stands up to close inspection so well that I can stand in front of it as if it's a full-scale car. As I mentioned before, Tony ultimately did not enter this car into the contest. While building this, he worked simultaneously on another design which required a plastic dome and an interior. And he wasn't sure that he could pull that off. But ultimately, he overcame the extremely difficult technical obstacles, and with that success, he chose to enter his alternative car and hold this one back. He subsequently won the National Award for Sports Car Design. I wonder if this car wouldn't also have won an award. There's a lot to learn about this contest, and we've only scratched the surface today, but it's easy to understand now why the contest was a win-win situation for everybody involved. Regardless of scholarships and prize money, even if you didn't win those things, being in the contest already put you in the highest esteem at school and in your community. For GM and Fisher Body, the contest served as a massive aptitude test. It attracted into its ranks some of the most talented people in the country. Overcoming obstacles and demonstrating perseverance, as well as being a talented designer, were part of the intention behind the contest. In upcoming reports, we will find out how a Napoleonic coach from Europe, a flamboyant Hollywood designer to the stars from California, and a pragmatic businessman who started his career running a ball bearing factory were all connected to the success of the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild. And on a macro scale, they were connected to the success of the American economy of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Well, stick with me, and we will be treated to seeing more of these intriguing cars, the people that made them, and many other incredibly interesting things in upcoming reports on the amazing cars of the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild.
The Fisher Body Division of General Motors presents the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild Annual Award. Good evening, everyone. This is Don Russell in Detroit. Dads and mothers, uncles, aunts, friends of the American boy, and boys everywhere are ready for the big event of the summer, the grand finale of the 1954 model car competition of the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild. Yes, tonight is Guild Award Dinner Night. Here at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, the Guild has gathered distinguished educators, scientists, and leaders in the Motor City's own famous industry to do homage to the winners in this traditional contest of skill, imagination, and hard work. Now, as you probably know, boys from all over the country enter their own designed and built model cars in this famous competition. From these boys, state award winners are first selected. Then, the 40 regional winners, the boys who are here tonight. Among these 40 boys are the 8 national winners, each of whom will receive one of the coveted top awards, a scholarship to the college or engineering school of his choice. The names of these lucky 8 are still a secret to the boys and their families. But in just a few minutes, while their parents from coast to coast watch with crossed fingers and 40 youngsters wait with hammering hearts, the big news will be announced. Right now, let's join some of the proud and happy regional winners as they begin to reap one of the rewards of their hard work. A visit to the nation's automotive capital.